Now, many people would argue with you that yes, internationally we're seeing a trend towards legalization in some European countries and some states in America, but those people would also argue, but John, it's a different system, it's a different society. How are we really going to make it work in South Africa, in the South African context? Realistically, do you see, considering the real struggles that we have when it comes to policing and legislation, do you see it working in South Africa?
Well, it's always an interesting point when people say South Africa will be harder to implement it here. I think it's exactly the opposite of that. I think implementing legalized weed will take tax off the system. Because right now we are arresting thousands of people each year at a cost of almost 20,000 Rand a head for possession, which I've been charged 3 times for possession. Luckily, I have not walked away with a criminal record, depending on who you get in the system. But then it means that technically, unnecessarily, I've cost state 60,000 Rand. That's with the businesses I'm running and are still growing, I've cost more in tax than I've actually paid in tax. And that's coming from someone who, I try my best, I work every day, I get my things done. And that system, I think, if you eliminate that and legalize, you'll bring in extra state revenue without even beginning the sales of cannabis, simply by taking that tax off the system. And then with regulation of cannabis, look at regulation of alcohol. Surely we have actually managed to regulate alcohol to a degree. The same as in the States. They've also managed to regulate alcohol, etc., to a degree. So I believe that the implementation and the legalization, if you look at the positive effects, will way outweigh the negative effects. Because, as you know, in everything there's always collateral damage. Even legal alcohol has collateral damage. People overuse it and they end up crashing their cars. But in the end of the day, if you try and take alcohol away from society and you make it illegal, like they did in Prohibition, well, look what happened. They literally gave the foundation for organized crime in America, was alcohol prohibition. So in the end, making it legal, the negatives was outweighed by the positives of keeping it illegal and having this underground market fueling themselves.
Which is essentially what we have at the moment, an underground market that just perpetuates the problems.
Yeah, it's just perpetuating itself. And we are also we are one of the world's greatest producers of outdoor grown cannabis. And none of that's being taxed. We've got a huge agricultural business going on in South Africa, not just the agriculture, but also transport of cannabis from Swaziland through South Africa. And it's not being taxed. It's all being illegitimately posted through. So
now, John, through your organization, Bongalong, you obviously come into contact with thousands of South Africans who do use and who are part of this movement. And I want to ask you to answer honestly to me. Do you see South Africans, if there was a legal route available to them, potentially even then having to pay a bit more because presumably the product would then be taxed? Do you imagine South Africans would be willing to go the legal route? Would we pay more? Would we do it?
Well, interestingly enough, I'd say yes. A lot of people. You do get a lot of users who also find, no, keep it illegal because government's going to be taxing it.
Right.
But if you look in a business sense, something gets taxed based on its original price. Right now, cannabis per gram to grow it costs virtually nothing if you're growing it outdoor. If you're growing it indoor, the cost is very minimal, but it's being sold at a price that's taxed over 1,000%. All the different phases of criminality it passes through. And government, even if they tried to, couldn't tax it that much because it would be outrageous. But it leaves the gateway open for something that we could sin tax way more than cigarettes or alcohol, and it would still be coming in at a price that would be acceptable to the people using it right now.
And people would buy?
I'm sure people would buy. If you give someone the option to not have to drive out to a dodgy parking lot anymore and take the risk of getting from somebody and having that exposure to being locked up, versus I can go on the internet, click, order a few grams, smoke it in the confines of my home. Same as America. The fact that they legalize it does not mean that these guys now have a right to come and smoke on your stoop. They still have regulated areas. You can smoke here, but you can't smoke there. You can smoke at home, but don't smoke in public spaces. So we're not saying let's take the mask off this thing and go to town. regulation is the key word here.
And I think after speaking to you now, we realize that not many South Africans understand this, that you're not calling for a free-for-all. It certainly would be regulated in the mind of your organization. Yes. So if somebody watching this video really wants to engage with you on what you've said, if they have questions or they want to find out more about Bongalong or the march, where can they go?
They can go to bongalong.co.za. It's Bongalong, because we bring the bong along.
Very clever.
Yes, or if we all smoked the bong, we'd get along, as someone supposed to said it last year's March. But yes, bongalong.co.za. There's an email contact, info@bongalong.co.za, or my personal phone number, 076-129-6812. And then you could also go the Facebook route or Twitter, both handles of Bongalong. So, and that if you contact someone there, it will be me personally responding.
John, thank you so much for speaking to us today, Joe, and I really hope that you do get the turnout that you expect at the march.
I hope so too.
I
hope to see you guys there. 9th of May at 10 a.m.
Do come back and tell us how it went. We really are interested to hear.
Yeah, I will contact you, Jerusha, and then set up a post-march and see what happens.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
Good. Are you happy with